Flow robot. Okay. Let's not do that. Okay. So we're going to continue with our journey with the Ghammy here. Again, great little plugin from Turn 2 On. The first thing I wanted to do, I said this video was going to be about like a more production-sided in the box kind of view of it, and it will be. But first, there were some things that were brought to my attention about how this works that I was not aware of when I did my first video. So I wanted to just do a quick recap of those not changes, but the kind of share that understanding with anyone who's interested in it. So right now I have my guitar still. Right now it's going through a whammy pedal, and it's going through the Ghammy. Let's turn the Ghammy on. So right now it's in octave down mode with the chords mode on. So set for polyphony. And so there are two things that I wanted to do. First was go over the weird way that Ghammy sort of works that I wasn't aware of. And also there were some requests for doing some lower octave stuff, so octave down instead of octave up like I did last video, because I am biased. I am definitely an octave up guy. So I wanted to do some of that. That's why I have it in octave down mode now. But wow, what did I just do? Let's find that again. So I guess let's start with the way the Ghammy works. So let me turn off the whammy. And let's talk about this. All right, so we have a section here called granular pitch shifting. And the thing that I didn't understand about this in the last video is that it's always on, even when it's grayed out. So right now I just turned off the granular pitch shifter section here. You see this grays out, but it is not off. So I have it in low, or I have it toe up, so it's not doing anything right now. Let's do this. So now you hear it with, this is supposed to be an octave down. Well, it is an octave down in mono mode. So switch this into poly. Sounds a little bit better. But let's look at this granular pitch shifter section real quick. So the thing that I was made aware of is that these settings are always on, even if you have this section off. So when you load up the Ghammy, it's going to have this default 25.3 milliseconds with the thicker mutation mode and 0 grains pitch shifted. And that's great. It sounds great, but it's also can be a little confusing, because if you have this off, you may not realize that this is actually affecting your sound pretty significantly. So right now, that's what it sounds like. And if you raise up the resolution, you're introducing latency here. So you're introducing a delay, but it's also becomes less prone to having audio artifacts. So you hear it sounds a little bit cleaner there. But you can hear a clear delay. And then if you put it lower, it comes through instantaneously, more or less, but you can hear more artifacts. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that you should always be opening up this granular pitch shifter section, unless you just like the default settings, which you may. I certainly did. But you always want to kind of be at least aware that this is always on. And even the mutation mode is going to be, it's always going to have an impact on your sound. So let's change it to something really drastic, like I think vibe is. Let's raise this up. So you hear that has a very distinct pulse to it now. Now if I turn this off, it keeps that distinct pulse. And then if I change this to a higher value, now it's more of a slower rate. Keeps the slower rate. So you always want to be aware of what mutation mode you want and what kind of resolution you want when you're using it. And this, I haven't tested this yet, so we're going to try it right now. This should, from what I understand based on the post that was made by the dev, this should also impact that that phenomenon, I guess you could call it, that I noticed with when you're using the detune modes in mono under the mono setting. So right now I got a fly flying around my face here. It's pretty cool. So right now let's turn this back to thick, so we get a kind of our standard, if you will, setting there. Let's set this back to our default. So this is what the deep sounds like in poly mode. So again, got that kind of nice chorusy, almost flangey kind of effect there. And if we put it into mono mode, then I notice that it almost doesn't sound like it's actually doing any kind of chorusing or anything. But it does change the characteristic of the sound. So what that is, now that I kind of understand this better, what that's clearly doing is it is introducing some slight phasing issues into the sound, which is altering the tonality of the guitar without making any kind of like actual detuning kind of effect. So if we raise this up, this should start to, even though it's still in mono mode, it should start to sound more like a traditional kind of detune. Yep, see, there you go. Let's put it into deep. So that's definitely a very important thing. If you want to use the mono smoothing mode while you're using the detune section, you definitely want to either check this or again, you can use it to just shape your sound if you want to try different settings here. It's cool, very cool for that. So very cool stuff. But let's do some quick octave down stuff just to give you a idea what that's going to sound like. Let's bring this to, let's say we'll bring it to like 50-ish, just to give it a little bit of extra time. And let's put this in octave down mode. So you get some interesting sounds there, and then I'm still in mono mode, so let me flip this into poly and see what that sounds like. So it definitely sounds more kind of traditional in poly mode, as we would expect. But again, you get that kind of weird but cool kind of ring modulation sound in mono mode here. Which is, it's just so cool, because I mean you can use any old effect unit to get normal sounds, But when you want something weird, you get something that does a good pitch shift, and this is it. This is a great controllable pitch shift. And that's the other thing I really like about this. Like I have one of the other kind of out there pitch devices called Fritz from Electric Panda, and it's awesome. But I don't know what I'm doing with it. Like I don't feel like anything that I do in there, like I have real control over what's happening. But the cool thing about the Ghammy is that I always feel like, even if I'm not sure what tweaking a setting will do, I always feel like I'm in control of it, and that's a nice thing. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with just kind of throwing caution to the wind with something like Fritz and letting, you know, the chips fall where they may. That's awesome too, and I've used that to great effect already in the short time that I've had it. But I like having something that is very easy to control, even if I don't necessarily know how what I'm doing is affecting the actual sound. I can kind of figure it out, and that's awesome here. So let's just compare this. So again, I have let's put him back in poly. We're doing an octave down. Let's do octave down in our harmony mode here. So that's with a 52 millisecond resolution. Let's turn this off and see what we get, how that compares to just the standard harmony mode octave down in the whammy pedal. Again, in chords mode. Okay, so. Same thing in here. So it gets a little, that's definitely, let's try raising the resolution here, see how that cleans up. It definitely helps. But again, you're introducing latency, so, or not latency, but you're introducing a delay in the pitched signal, so cleans up pretty nicely though. And let's hear that, just that same chord. So again, I would still give the whammy a little bit of an edge in terms of keeping the worst of the, and I say worst, but I don't really mean the worst, keeping more artifacts out of the sound. It's a little bit cleaner than the Ghammy, but the added flexibility of having this, the resolution and all this stuff is really nice, and especially when we get into the kind of in the box synth, kind of using it in a rack, like you might use any other effects pedal in, or effects unit in Reason. That's where that really kind of shines in the sound, the sound creation kind of aspect of things. So with that, I will take off my guitar and we will do that. Not really sure why I took my headphones off there, but you know, whatever, that's life. Okay. So let me turn off this guitar And let's take a quick listen to a section of this song. This is a song that I put out probably a couple of years ago now. It was just something I kind of threw together, and it was fun. It has some interesting kind of electronic vibes to it that I like. And you know, I think there was some cool stuff in here we could try and play around with the Ghammy on. So let me just play a bit of the verse, and you can hear what we're going to be messing around with. Oh, let me take that out of solo. Found it. Okay. So this is actually the thing that we're going to be messing around with. This is this triangle bass. So I'll play the part, and then I'll show you specifically the instrument that we're working with. So here is the section. Oh, I have the Ghammy on already, so let's try that again. So that's basically it. What we're going to be working with specifically right now is this bass. Let me solo my vocal here along with the bass. Okay, so this is what that is. It's just a weird bass. So that's pretty much that. It's pretty interesting. It's got a lot of movement to it already, just, you know, using whatever modulation wheel stuff I had going on in that patch. But what we will do is we will try and screw it up as much as we can. Well, not as much as we can, but we're going to try and screw it up, and we're going to see what we get. So we'll turn the Gammy's already on, so we're going to turn it into doing something. Let's turn on let's do a so just trying around. So cool stuff right off the bat. Not necessarily the most usable at this point, but we can play around with it some more with this granular pitch section. Let's try and raise up the grains here and see what we get. Let's turn that expression on, see what that does. Okay, so this is interesting. I wonder... So that's weird. So let's listen to that again. I got the expression all the way back here, adding one grain. So let's see. So it sounds very obviously dissonant there. So let me turn this all the way off and see if it sounds any, see how different it sounds. Turn it back on. Interesting. Now let's try raising the grain some more. So it's got a fairly long delay on the grain, so it's that's why you're hearing those delays there. Some spacey stuff there. If we turn the feedback up, let's see what that does. Okay, so I do think this is, yeah, it's feeding back into itself, which is really cool. So it's almost like acting sort of like a, what do you call it? A shimmer reverb or a shimmer delay. So let's bring this back a little bit and see what we can get with that same kind of feedback. That's so cool. So now if I pull this wet back, so you're not, let's use something a little more straightforward for the octave here. So that's so cool. Like, you could not do this with any other like device just off the shelf like this. You gotta do all sorts of crazy routing. This is just really cool. So let's try this. I want to see what happens if I put in a pulsar and then we tie that in. Hopefully there's like, I haven't even looked at the back of this thing really in detail here. So is there a grain? Oh, please tell me there's a grain. Oh, it's gain level. Oh, Green's pitch. That's what I want right there. So we're taking some, it's a sine wave, and it's going into this green setting here. And I don't even know how that, I wonder if the expression pedal now scales it. I don't know, but it should be doing something interesting anyway. It's like, I'm like, whoa. It's causing a physical reaction in me. But yeah, what I was trying to say before, and before I cut myself off so rudely, is that like when you're doing kind of a crazy sound effect thing like this, it may be worthwhile to kind of dial back some of the wet and dry on it, you know, introduce more dry versus wet. So let me bring in the rest of the track, and let's try and get something that's actually musical with the music here. I mean, that's so cool, just right out of the Let's try putting, I'm a big fan of random. So let's try random, and let's kind of cross-reference that with, oh, I don't need to sync it, I just need to turn it on and make the rate actually a lot slower. Let's go with the sine wave, maybe smooth it out a little bit, and then add our levels. Like, how cool is that? That is so cool. And we're not even, you know, we haven't even touched the mutation mode really. Let's try that. It's a little bit harsh there, so let's put this to something else. Whoa. Like, I guess it's just self-oscillating now. What happens when we put some sound in it? Hopefully it doesn't blow my ears out. Come on! That is so cool! All this with 2 devices. You know, you got the... Let me turn this... What am I doing? Let's turn this feedback off. Okay, so... like two devices. I've got my bass, which I did, you know, a fair amount of tweaking to, no lie there, but the Ghammy is doing all the work. The only thing that I'm doing other than that is automating the grains amount with this pulsar. And so, like, this is why I mean, already love using the Ghammy, because it's just so easy to dial in some weird stuff that's really cool that you would never have been able to come up with just off the top of your head. Like, you know, I wouldn't think like, oh, I want to try like what you know, a granular pitch shifter up to, you know, semitones with a 123 millisecond delay feeding back at 53% or whatever I had it at. And like, this kind of stuff you can do with this, and just by playing around for like a couple of minutes with this, it's incredible. I love it. I love this thing. So let's move on. That's the bass. Let's turn this off for the bass. Let's go to just kind of a more traditional use that I've used with my actual whammy pedal. I've done this on my guitar a lot, is just to kind of bring out a little bit more high end sparkle, a little bit, push something that's a little bit kind of starting to get a little buried in the mix more up front. And this is really good if you have, you know, very dense mixes like I tend to have. I need to use stuff like this pretty often to help just certain things cut through. But what I want to do is come over to, so this vibraphone, I think this should, let me just play this and make sure this is what I want. Okay, oops. Okay, so this is the thing I want to work on. I got to get used to doing this soloing thing, because I don't have this, I didn't really think this out, because, you know, who does that? But okay, so the vibraphone, you know, I'm happy with how it sits in the mix already, but if I wanted it to kind of cut through a little bit more, one of the things that I would do would be to just slap a Ghammy, or, you know, if I had access to a whammy in the box, that would be awesome, but I don't, so I will just use the Ghammy. So let's add that here. So let's listen to it again. So that's the way it is right now. What I'm going to do, just to bring out again a little bit more top end, is just to put it into harmony mode. So it's got the original and it's got the wet signal as well. It's got dry and wet. And then I'm going to put that all the way up an octave. And let's just listen to it right the way it is right now. So it's pretty drastic right now. And, you know, this is how I would use the whammy on my guitar, except the benefit of the Ghammy is that there's this wet dry section, which I don't have access to on the whammy pedal. So I'm just limited to kind of that, you know, it's a half of an octave up and it's half the original signal. And I can't like pick and choose how loud I want each of those to be. It's just, that's the way it is. Here I can dial that in. So if I want to just have it with a little bit of extra octave in there, just to give it some extra brightness, I can do that. So here I'll just drop this down and then I'll start to bring it back in. So especially in, you know, soloed mode, you can hear it pretty clearly here, but you're not going to hear such a huge difference in the full mix but you'll kind of get a sense that it's sticking out a little bit more. So let me turn my, let's listen to it. I may have to dial it back up a little bit just to make it really kind of a little more obvious. Let's see if I can find it again. There it is. Turn it off. So in this case, I actually almost feel like the pitched up version of it has lost a little bit of gain, but you can actually hear it a little. It doesn't sound that much less clear, and so that's the help of that additional octave up. That's just helping it poke through. So what I might normally do is just drag this gain up a little bit more to make it a little more, to make up for whatever is lost when I'm dragging this dry knob down. But that's just kind of a thing that I love to use pitch shifting for in general, is just that kind of thing. And again, this is really a more subtle kind of like, you know, this is more of a mix trick than like a sound effect kind of thing. So that's pretty much that. I don't want to go for too much longer because, you know, I could go on all day about the Ghammy and how much I love it, but you can see just how versatile it is and how cool it is. Just absolutely for what is it, $45, you know, not on sale. That's an absolutely incredible device. If you need any kind of like sound effects in the box, I wholeheartedly recommend it. And again, this is all without me even really using the expression pedal that much. So if you want to build an expression pedal or buy an expression pedal, I think I want to say that the developer put some directions right on the rack extension purchase page. So if you're the type who wants to do some I don't know if soldering is involved, I'm just saying this, but if you want to do some soldering and do a project, you can create your own expression pedal for it, and then you know, you can have at it with this thing. But you know, even without it, it's amazing. And you can obviously, of course, just, you know, right click, do your edit automation, draw in your automation curve for any of these parameters, and then you've got your crazy weird sound effects or super subtle but very helpful mix sound effects. So yeah, Ghammy, it's awesome. Check it out. And again, don't forget, this section is always on, even if it doesn't look like it is. So just keep that in mind. But that's pretty much it. So if you want pitch shifting, buy the Ghammy. I'm not being paid for this, I swear. All right, later.